Hello everybody, and welcome to Intro to Competitive Overwatch, Quick Hero Roles. In this video, I'll briefly explain the role each hero usually plays in a competitive match. My previous videos explained the roles of DPS, damage per second, tank, and support, but there's actually a ton of variation within each of these roles. So, let's dig into these differences and see how you should play each hero in competitive Overwatch. First, the offense heroes. All these heroes are considered DPS heroes, but they deal damage in very different ways. Genji. Genji is a flanker DPS hero who excels at picking off enemies. You should sneak around the enemies using your wall climb, double jump, and swift strike dash ability. Use your left click attack to deal damage at range, and use your right click attack to deal burst of damage up close. Use your deflectability to your advantage, but save it if you need to counter enemies who can pick you off quickly. MCCREE. MCCREE is a solid hit scan hero who's effective at short to mid range. You can stick with your team if you have tanks to absorb damage for you, but you can flank around corners to get picks with your flashbang and combat roll. Make sure enemy barriers are down before using your ult. Pharah. Pharah can deal a lot of damage with her rocket launcher, especially from the air. Use her jump jet and hover to survey the battlefield and keep the enemies suppressed, and use a concussive blast to disorient enemies or to make an escape. You can stay with or above your team to throw out damage, or you can flank around to get picks. Be careful of hit scan heroes that can shoot you down quickly, and stay with the group or switch heroes if you're being countered. Reaper. Reaper deals a ton of damage up close, making him effective against tanks. You should avoid fighting at medium range, but Reaper's relatively limited mobility means he can't always escape from behind enemy lines. So, you should stay relatively close to your team's front line, but to the side. Soldier 76. Soldier is a classic, well-rounded DPS hero. As Soldier, you should stick with your group, especially behind a barrier from Reinhardt or D.Va. To avoid any bullet spread, shoot in short bursts of up to 5 shots per burst. This lets you reliably deal damage and pick off enemies at range. Before using your ult, make sure enemy barriers are down. SOMBRA. SOMBRA is a flanker who can harass and pick off enemies. She does best behind enemy lines and can pick off heroes at low health with her machine pistol. Make sure to keep a health pack hacked and have your translocator ready for a quick escape. Use your EMP ultimate ability to allow your team to push in or to counter an enemy ult. Tracer. Tracer is a great harasser who gets behind enemy lines and keeps the enemy team distracted. Although she can deal great bursts of damage and pick off isolated heroes, Tracer tends to jump around and stop the enemy team from pushing forward. Use your blink ability to engage enemies, and keep your recall ready to heal yourself. You can usually get one pick with your pulse bomb ult, but you can combine with Zarya's graviton surge to get more kills. Now, onto the defense heroes. Like the offense heroes, these heroes are all considered DPS heroes, though some are a bit more suited for defending than for attacking. Bastion. Bastion deals an absurd amount of damage in turret mode, but is an easy target for most enemies. The most important things to do as Bastion are to keep redeploying in different positions so the enemies don't know where you are, and to coordinate with teammates to keep you alive, such as getting a Reinhardt to shield you or a Mercy to heal you. Bastion is great at breaking down enemy barriers, but can be easily picked off if left unprotected. HANZO. HANZO is a sniper that works well at medium range. You should stick with the group as HANZO and lob out damage downrange. Since HANZO can wall climb, he can get the high ground with his team to stay safer when the enemies push in. Aim your scatter arrow at enemies' feet, and use your Dragon Strike ult once the enemies are immobilized, or if you need to scatter them. Junkrat. Junkrat is great at dealing damage, but is less effective at getting kills. Stay with or just behind your group, and focus on keeping the enemies suppressed. Keep your concussion mine and steel trap deployed to get picks, and use the mine to deal with harassers and escape flankers. Break Reinhardt's barrier, but don't feed Zarya's shield. Use your Riptire to stall and distract enemies, or combine it with ultimates that immobilize them. Mei. Since Mei can heal herself with her Cryo Freeze ability and has comparatively high health, some players consider Mei to be almost like a tank. Use your Ice Wall to separate an overextended enemy from their team to get an easy pick, and freeze enemies you fight in an enclosed one-on-one to headshot them. You should stick near your group, but can roam around adjacent areas to freeze enemies. Torbjorn. As Torbjorn, you should build your turret in a defensible area. Put it somewhere that lets it consistently deal damage and suppress or even pick off flankers. Torbjorn's armor packs are a great asset to the team, especially healers and heroes with shields. Having armor reduces the damage received from incoming attacks, even if you take damage to your shields, so you should definitely prioritize teammates with shields, like ZENYATTA. WIDOWMAKER. WIDOWMAKER should stick behind her team from a safe vantage point. WIDOWMAKER is great at picking off enemies behind their front line, so focus on getting fully charged headshots or picking off enemies who are already hurt. Use your grappling hook to get into position and escape enemy flankers. Feel free to run back to your team if you need help, since WIDOWMAKER has a hard time beating most heroes in a close-up one-on-one. Now that we've wrapped up all the DPS heroes, let's talk about tanks. D.Va. D.Va can play on the front line with her team, but she can also fly around and harass or pick off enemy heroes. Her defense matrix ability lets her absorb tons of incoming damage, though she can only deal damage at close range. As D.Va, you should coordinate with your other tank or tanks to balance out the recharge time of your defense matrix. When you use your self-destruct ult, boost up into the air right before activating it so enemies can't easily take cover. Reinhardt. Reinhardt is the quintessential tank. As Reinhardt, you are your team's front line with your 2000 hit point barrier field. Use your Fire Strike to build your ult, but focus on keeping your barrier up to defend your teammates. Only use your charge to get picks when your team doesn't need your barrier, and don't overextend behind enemy lines. Drop your barrier before it gets destroyed to charge it more quickly, and tell your team before using your Earthshatter ult. ROADHOG. Despite having 600 health, ROADHOG is actually somewhere between a tank and a DPS hero. His scrap gun deals a ton of damage up close, and his chain hook is virtually a guaranteed kill against most squishy heroes. Hold left click as soon as you land a hook to shoot as soon as possible. As ROADHOG, you should be near the front of your team so you can get picks with your hook, throw out damage, and absorb a bit of incoming damage. Winston. Winston is usually considered an off-tank harasser because he can't effectively form the front line of his team. Instead, Winston should jump in behind the enemies to pick off snipers and harass supports. Use the damage from your jump pack to deal a small burst of damage, deploy and stay behind your barrier projector, and jump back out to the safety of your team to get healed. Zarya. Zarya is a solid tank that can absorb damage without feeding her enemies ult charges by using her particle barrier and projected barrier. Stay at the front of your team and keep using both your barriers to build your energy, which can double the damage you deal. You can also use your projected barrier to save teammates from getting picked or to help them push in. Coordinate your Graviton Surge ult with your team to make sure you can kill the enemies you trap. Finally, onto the support heroes. Ana. Ana can heal her teammates at an incredible rate, provided you can hit them. Her biotic rifle fires a projectile dart when unscoped, but is hit scan when scoped. Stick behind your team, but stay closer to the front line than other snipers would. Your sleep dart is a great counter to most ultimates, and your biotic grenade is great for denying health to enemies when you need to push in. Even though you can deal a lot of damage, remember that your role is to heal and support your team. Lucio. Lucio is the only hero that can constantly heal multiple teammates. Stay behind the front line and keep as many teammates in your line of sight to heal them. Don't overextend to try and get damage with your weapon. Wall ride to make yourself difficult to hit, and use your speed boost to push your team in at critical moments. You can use your sound barrier ult to push in, but you can also save it to counter an enemy ult or push. Mercy. Mercy should heal and damage boost teammates a bit behind the front line. To avoid getting hit, stay behind your team's defenses and fly around from target to target. The most important thing you can do is to stay alive. Don't fly in to heal a teammate who's already doomed, since you'll have no escape route and will have just wasted your life. When your resurrect ult is ready, hide and tell your team to die together so you can resurrect them all to full health. SYMMETRA. SYMMETRA isn't quite a healer, but her ultimate abilities do support her teammates. Protect your team with shields or teleport them back to the fight from spawn. The most important thing to do as SYMMETRA, especially on defense, is to build your ult charge and deploy your ult before dying. To do this, you might need to play somewhat aggressively, almost like a DPS. Keep a nest of sentry turrets that force enemies to turn around, and play to your strengths. ZENYATTA. ZENYATTA can heal teammates from a distance with his healing orb, and make enemies take more damage with his Discord orb. You can deal quite a bit of damage, but your lack of movement abilities makes you an easy target. Stay toward the back of your group, constantly checking to see who needs the healing orb, and keep your Discord orb on the enemy you want your team to focus on. Use your Transcendence ult to push in with your team, or to counter enemy ults that deal damage over time. This concludes our overview of the role each hero plays in competitive Overwatch. Although I try to play a bit of every hero, there are still some heroes that I have less experience with, so please leave your own advice in the comments. I should mention that certain heroes tend to be used much more in competitive play than other heroes. In any case, when you're getting started in Overwatch, you should play around with the heroes you like and see what works for you. If you liked or disliked this video, please leave a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and consider subscribing for more Overwatch and gaming content. For an explanation of the terminology and fundamental strategies used in competitive Overwatch, take a look at my videos on those topics. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.